They say every star holds a secret if you listen closely enough. I used to believe that back when I had something to believe in, before everything fell apart, before I lost everything. My name doesn't matter anymore, not out here. Once, I was Dr. Callum Voss, a theoretical physicist specializing in quantum anomalies. I was a rising star at the Dominion Research Institute, known for pushing the boundaries of what humanity could understand about the fabric of reality itself. People whispered about my brilliance, my daring theories on interdimensional energy extraction. I thought I could save the colonies, maybe even reshape the universe. I was wrong. They call it the Voss Rift now, a permanent scar on the far edge of the Epsilon Drift. The accident wasn't entirely my fault, no matter what the council says. But when you crack the door between universes, sometimes something looks back. And sometimes it follows you home. The project was meant to be a breakthrough, an experimental gateway that would harness quantum echoes from parallel dimensions. Unlimited energy, infinite possibilities. But something went wrong during our first full-scale activation. A resonance cascade, a term they now associate with disaster. The device breached containment, and for 48 seconds we glimpsed something impossible. When the lights stabilized, half the research wing was gone. Where the gateway had been, a black scar hovered in space. I still hear the screams of those who were pulled inside. Sometimes, late at night, I wonder if they're still out there, trapped in whatever hell we touched. I became the scapegoat, stripped of my credentials, cast out into the void. My former colleagues turned their backs, the same ones who had championed my work. Wexler especially. He always envied me, my intellect, my insights. In the aftermath, he took everything I had left. My research, my reputation, my future. Now, I work salvage jobs aboard the Eidolon, a rusting cargo vessel with a crew of castaways. Out here, in the lawless fringe of known space, no one cares about your past as long as you pull your weight. Captain Harlow doesn't trust me, but he knows I have my uses. And it isn't like we have a choice. The colonies are dying, and any edge we can find might mean the difference between survival and extinction. That's how we ended up at Site 13. It started like any other salvage mission. A faint energy signature near the edge of the drift, something too regular to be natural. Harlow, always chasing the next payday, ordered us in. From the moment we dropped out of FTL, I knew something was wrong. Space itself felt heavier, as if reality here was thinner, stretched taut over something that shouldn't be. The object was massive, half buried in the debris field. It wasn't just a derelict ship, it was a structure. Alien. Impossible. Eidolon, this is Voss, I said, scanning the readings. You're going to want to see this. Harlow's voice crackled through the calm. What is it? I hesitated. It's not human. The airlock shuddered as we docked, the metallic groan echoing through the hull. I suited up with the rest of the team, but I felt it. A hum beneath the surface, like the ship was breathing. We breached the exterior hatch, and the lights inside flickered to life as if welcoming us. The architecture was wrong. Angles that seemed to twist when you weren't looking directly at them. Surfaces that absorbed light instead of reflecting it. And the silence. No hum of machinery. No decay. Just a quiet so deep it felt like something was waiting. Stay close, Harlow ordered. We sweep, we salvage, we get out. Fast. But I couldn't stop staring at the walls, tracing the strange patterns carved into the metal. Symbols that looked eerily familiar. I remembered them from the Voss Rift. They were part of the gateway interface. Whoever built this ship, they knew about the breach, and they had tried to stop it. The further we ventured inside, the more the ship seemed to breathe around us. I could feel it in the air, a faint, rhythmic pulse like the heartbeat of something ancient. The walls, smooth and dark, shimmered faintly when touched. It wasn't just a vessel. It was a machine, maybe even a living thing, and it was waking up. I don't like this, Ramos muttered, his voice crackling over the comms. He was our security lead, ex-military, the kind of man who never flinched. But even he was on edge. Stay sharp, Harlow said. Voss, anything useful on those symbols? I scanned the inscriptions again, tracing the jagged script with a gloved finger. They pulsed faintly beneath my touch, resonating with a low hum I felt in my teeth. "It's similar to what we found at the rift," I said quietly. "But this is older and more deliberate, like it was designed to contain something." "Contain what?" Ramos snapped. His knuckles whitened as he gripped his rifle tighter. I didn't answer. Couldn't. The ship stretched before us, corridors spiraling in impossible curves. Harlow led the way, his light slicing through the heavy shadows. It should have been cold. A derelict always was, but the air grew warmer as we pressed on. Thick, alive. When we reached what looked like a central chamber, I felt it fully. The echo. At the heart of the room stood a structure, a monolith of black stone, veined with shifting violet light. I recognized the shape immediately. A stabilizer. The same technology one had tried to harness back at Dominion Research. But this one was still active, and whatever it was holding back, it was breaking free. "This is wrong," I whispered. "We need to leave." "Not until we get something worth our time," Harlow said, stepping closer to the monolith. His voice was calm, but I saw the tension in his jaw. "Ramos, secure the area. Vas, can you access the system?" I hesitated. Every instinct screamed to turn back, to run. But I had come too far to stop now. I connected my scanner to the monolith's interface and started working. The data was incomprehensible at first. Layers of alien code overlapped, forming a language that seemed half mathematical, half organic. Yet, the deeper I dug, the more it made a terrible kind of sense. This ship wasn't just a vessel. It was a prison, and something was still inside. A sudden static burst crackled over the comms. "Captain," Ramos said, his voice tight, "I heard something. Movement. Not ours." Harlow stiffened, hand drifting toward his sidearm. "Where?" "3 levels down. It's moving fast." A scream cut through the channel. Then silence. "Ramos!" Harlow barked. No response. I froze, pulse hammering against my ribs. This wasn't just some ancient ruin. It was waking up, and we weren't alone. "We need to get out," I said again louder. "Shut down the stabilizer before." The lights flickered. The monolith flared brighter, casting jagged shadows across the chamber. For a split second, I swore I saw a figure standing at the edge of the room. Tall, wrong, its limbs bending at impossible angles. And then it was gone. Harlow grabbed my shoulder, pulling me back. "Cut the connection." I yanked the scanner free, and the stabilizer groaned, the vibrations intensifying beneath our feet. The echo was spreading. I could feel it in my bones, pulling at the edges of reality itself. "Move," Harlow ordered, shoving me toward the exit. We ran, through shifting corridors and twisting geometries that seemed to stretch forever. The ship was no longer quiet. It was alive, and it wanted us to stay. We didn't stop until we reached the airlock. Harlow slammed his palm against the release, and the doors groaned shut behind us. The silence that followed was heavier than any sound. Back aboard the Eidolon, I stripped off my helmet, gasping for breath. "Where's Ramos?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. Harlow didn't respond. His face was pale beneath the dim light. "Prep for departure. Now." As we pulled away from the alien structure, I watched it shrink into the void. The stabilizer still pulsed faintly, and deep inside, I knew whatever we had disturbed wasn't finished with us. It was only beginning. The Eidolon drifted in silence. We had put 1,000 kilometers between us and the alien ship, but I could still feel its presence lingering. It clung to my skin like cold sweat, a gnawing awareness that whatever we had touched down there wasn't finished with us. Ramos was gone. No trace, no body, just static and a scream over the comms. Harlow had locked down the ship, but it wouldn't be enough. I knew that much, because the echo had followed us. I felt it first in the lower decks, a tremor beneath my boots, flickers of movement in the periphery that vanished when I turned to look. The lights dimmed and pulsed, sinking to an invisible rhythm that wasn't ours. "This ship is changing," I told Harlow as I scanned the systems. The stabilizer's energy signature, It's still bleeding through. It's inside the eidolon now. Harlow stood rigid, knuckles white against the console. You said cutting the connection would stop it. It slowed it down, I admitted. But something came through. The echo isn't just energy. It's a presence. He turned toward the viewport, watching the black void swirl around us. Then we cut it out. Whatever it takes. He didn't understand. None of them did. The echo wasn't something you could fight. It was like an infection, a ripple through the fabric of reality. And it was spreading. I headed to the lower decks alone. Whatever was happening, I had to see it for myself. The corridor lights sputtered as I moved deeper. I heard it then, a faint whisper, threading through the hum of the ship. Not mechanical, something else. Called my name. I shouldn't have followed it, but I did. The maintenance bay was cold. The shadows stretched wrong across the walls, like they didn't belong to the shapes casting them. And in the center stood something that hadn't been there before. A door. It wasn't part of the ship. Its surface was black stone, carved with the same symbols I had traced on the alien monolith. And it was open, a faint violet glow spilling from the crack. I wanted to run. Every rational thought screamed at me to turn back. Instead, I stepped through. The world beyond wasn't space. It wasn't anything I could understand. I stood in a vast expanse where the laws of reality bent and twisted. Great spires of obsidian jutted from the ground, pulsing with sickly light. Above me, a sky swirled with impossible stars, shifting and writhing like living things. And in the distance, I saw them, silhouettes, tall and thin, their limbs bending in ways no human frame should. Their faces were blank, but I felt their gaze pierce through me. They were the echo, and they were watching. I heard Ramos' voice, faint and distant. Help me. He was here, trapped. I moved toward the sound, the ground shifting beneath my feet. Each step pulled at my mind, unraveling the edges of my sanity. I knew I couldn't stay long, not without becoming part of this place. And then I found him, or what was left of him. Ramos was fused to one of the spires, his body twisted and stretched. His eyes burned with violet light, his mouth open in a soundless scream. He wasn't dead. Not yet. Vas! His voice trembled through the air. You have to close it, before it spreads. I didn't argue. I turned back toward the door, every muscle screaming as the echo closed in. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Their hunger clawed at my thoughts, a cold certainty that they wanted to break free. When I staggered back through the door, I slammed my palm against the emergency lockdown panel. Sparks flew as the door sealed shut, cutting off the violet light. But I knew that wasn't enough. Harlow, I barked into the comms. Initiate a core purge. Now. Are you insane? His voice snapped back. You'll kill us. If we don't, the echo will consume this ship, I said. And it won't stop here. A long pause. Then, copy that. The ship groaned as the core went into meltdown protocols. A shudder ripped through the deck as plasma vents opened, purging the infected energy. I braced against the wall, every nerve in my body screaming as the echo fought to hold on. And then it was gone. The lights stabilized. The air felt thinner, lighter. But I knew we had only bought ourselves time. We limped back to the nearest outpost, carrying the weight of what we had seen. Harlow never spoke about the mission again. He filed the official report as a simple salvage failure. Ramos was listed as Kia, but I knew the truth. Part of him was still out there, trapped beyond the veil. I left the eidolon soon after. I couldn't stay. Not after what I had seen. Not after what followed me back. I still hear the echo sometimes, in the quiet moments. A faint whisper just beyond the edge of hearing, calling me back. And I know one day I won't be able to resist. Because when you open a door between worlds, it never truly closes.